on piano?
Oh, he's always on piano. You can't get him off.
Okay, you never give me money.
Right.
The next track in the medley is the Sun King song.
That's where we pretend to be Fleetwood Mac for a few minutes.
And then you get into a sort of a language thing, which I couldn't figure out if it was some type of...
it's cod, you know.
Yeah.
See, we did the introduction, so we call it the song riff. Well, the little instrumental bit that's like Fleetwood Mac before we start singing. And we did it again at the end, so when we came to sing it, to make them different, you know, so it wasn't just the same riff. We just started joking, you know, singing Cuando para mucho. So we just made up Paulie a few Spanish words from school, you know. So we just strung any Spanish words that sounded vaguely like something. And of course we got chickaferdy, and that's a Liverpool expression, just like sort of, it doesn't mean anything, but you know, it's chickaferdy. The one we missed, we should have had paranoia, you know, but we forgot all about it. We used to call ourselves Los Paranoias.
And so then what was the sort of any idea behind the Sun King? Does it have any sort of symbolism, or is it just...
No, it was just half a song I had, which I never finished, which was one way of getting rid of it without ever finishing it, you know. And it sort of, you know, the sort of medley went, and then we sort of wanted a change of atmosphere, so then here comes the Sun King, you know, why not? And here he comes, and everybody's happy, and Cuando para mucho, etc., etc.
Paranoias.
Yeah,
okay.
we might get a hit with that in those countries, you know, if they take it off separate.
could be a smash in Brazil.
Yeah, right.
The Sun King.
And cake and eat it is another nice line too, because they have that in Spanish, quejan or something. So we just have cake and eat it.
Okay, well, we'll have a track now called Sun King. Me and Mr. Mustard reminded me of the sort of songs that probably that Revolver time. I think it was that sort of tempo and so.
Yeah.
Is it a song that you had from way back? Or?
I did. I wrote it in India, so that was pre the Beatles double album, so it's that old. And it was from some newspaper clipping. The title was Me and Mr. Mustard, about some guy done something or other. But of course the story's nothing like it, you know, just...
Their eyes are blue.
Yeah, because in fact it's quite short as well.
Yeah, well, that's all half the song which I never finished. So
Indy Car.
I put it in there.
What's up? What's up, Loudon?
From Me and Mr. Mustard straight to Nothing Bad, who turned out to be Me and Mr. Mustard's sister. This is going back in the actual rock and roll again, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit like everything. In a way, sort of not fade away.
Yeah, Woodstock program.
Sometimes it's sort of
Yeah, we come from the Woodstock program. I'm so sorry, yeah.
Kicky girl and a party bag.
No, right?
Green bag isn't nice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
See-through polythene bag.
Yeah, right. That's what she wears. See a dragon and party bag.
Okay, well, we'll just take a look at polythene bag. She came in through the bathroom window. I read somewhere in the press that was an idea that Paul had about, I think, during one of the American tours, a fan who was
When Paul and I went to America to publicise Apple about 2 years ago to announce the opening, and we were just in the flat we were staying in. He just came out with that line. She came into the bathroom with it, so he had it for years, so he eventually finished it.
And so this was another song that was sort of started back
Yeah,
then.
most of them are, you know, except for the You Never Give Me Your Money and Golden Slumbers.
So she came in through the bathroom window. Yes. Look out. On to Golden Slumbers and strings this time, John.
Yeah. Paul laid the strings on after we'd finished most of the basic track.
Yeah, it seems to me that I think a lot of people had expected that you would become more complex with musical additions on this album.
Well, I don't know. I shouldn't expect anything. I personally can't be bothered with strings. I like to do it with the drum. Whatever. With electronics. I'm not really going to the hassle with musicians and the fact that it's such a drag. Trying to get them together, but Paul digs that. So Trash, no, they did it completely. I don't know who produced it, you know. But they had a good start, the Beatles album.
Yes, it's true. So it's...
So they've done a good job of it. I hope they get a hit.
Right, so we'll hear the Beatles singing Golden Slumbers. Get to the track now called Carry That Weight, which I think sort of features everybody.
Yes, that's the sort of... what's really like the Maxwell Silver Hammer story again, really. Like, we've all got a great load to carry, you know. But that's part of Golden Slumbers, really.
Yeah, well, yes,
Yeah.
it's a sort of a logical follow, isn't it?
Yeah, it's sort of the one song, really. That's the sort of chorus of Golden Slumbers.
And this has also been covered by somebody I read.
Well, no,
It's a
White
single.
Trash has done... we keep going back to this all the time, but they've done Golden Slumbers, including Carry That Weight, you know, as the one song.
Oh, I see. Right. And was this one that you all wrote, or was this a...
No, it's Paul's line.
This is Paul's line. Fine.
As far as I know, you know.
Nobody's told you otherwise.
No, I mean, it could be George or Ringo for all I know, but I presume it's Paul.
Okay, Carry That Weight. And now we sort of move fairly logically to the end, which was just a way to finish it up,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
get out of that.
Yeah.
So we got
A way
out
to
of it.
close the show.
Yes.
And there's really not much more to be said about that, but we will come back after we...
What about Her Majesty?
Well, why don't we play the end first, and then...
Okay, right.
Well, then we'll let the silence run and do that.
Oh, yeah, so you're going to do it properly, okay.
Okay. Well, Her Majesty's a very fine girl, and one day I'm going to make her mine. It's got to be a fairly strong line, I think. Actually, when the double LP was released, at the time I did a similar program with Paul.
Yeah.
He played this to me.
Oh, did he?
At that time, yeah. In fact, it was on that tape when we were sort of just getting levels and things. And,
Oh, I see. Well, I think he did it again for this.
Yes, well, I'm sure he did,
Yeah.
but he decided to sort of throw it away.
Yeah, he's had it round. You know, we always have tons of bits and pieces, you know, lying around for years. I've got stuff that I wrote around Pepper, you know, just still, because you start to lose interest in it a bit after you've had it for years, so I've never recorded it.
Do you ever sort of consider, giving this material to anybody else to
Yes,
record?
I
or-
keep meaning to. There's just one particular song I keep meaning to make a demo of, you know, to give to somebody or other, but I never get round to it, you know. So no doubt somebody will hound me for it now.
Yes, I'm sure they will. The fact that Her Majesty isn't listed on the sleeve is there any particular reason?
We like to have a joke at the end, you know, or a surprise, like on the end of what was it, Pepper or the Beatles double? Just something.
There was one on the end of Pepper, I can remember.
Yeah, and wasn't the...
Which was something at double
was that,
speed.
Yeah,
or
was that the
like
one everybody thought was something obscene?
Yes, that's right.
And it never was, you know.
All sorts of conjecture
if
about
you
that.
play
I
it
remember.
backwards and all
yeah,
that.
Yeah, all that scene, yeah.
Well, we listened to it back, but it seemed to say something obscene, but we had no idea. It's just one of those things. So this is another one of them, you know.
Okay. John, thanks very much for giving us the time.
It's a pleasure. I'll enjoy listening to myself in bed.
Fine.
Listen to
And
the album.
just before we close, you can perhaps let us know about the next for you and Yoko, which will be the wedding LP.
We've got a wedding album, it's called, you know, coming out in the middle of October, and it's got a lot of pictures and cartoons and press cuttings and things like that written about us there, and some pretty frantic sounds on it. On one side is our heartbeats and us two yelling, you know, that's the description of it, but it really makes your hair stand on end. So you'll hear that in October, you know.
Fine. And a single in Britain for the Beatles, is that anywhere near the drawing board yet?
Well, if there's something and come together that goes out in the States, it might come out here too, you know, because usually we don't normally have singles in the States without having them here. But I don't know, it's all in the air, you know. Well, I'm making a Plastic Ono single, if that's of any interest to you.
Apple is becoming terribly productive all of a sudden.
Well, we have so many songs, you know, we've got to get them out somewhere or other. And it's nicer to do them yourself, actually. I prefer doing my own songs than giving them to somebody else. Because half of them, it's only the way we make it happen. Otherwise, it's a pretty... nothing happens to the song, you know. If you gave it away without doing the arrangement, you could kill it, you know. We'd either have to record the whole song and the person ourselves to get it to sound like we imagine it, to give it the full potential, or just trust to luck.
Okay. John, thank you very much.
A pleasure, Tony.
Yeah,
I know
I
that's it. I think you're
He said to me, he said, no, you're getting a mountain certificate to spend very good with money. I never even heard of that, you know, until I read it. So, I mean, it's just like a thing. I'll have a read of it, actually. But I have a bit of time.
even the studio last night.
Yeah. I'm just mixing the track. And, we got into it and didn't get out
Well,
till
you
about
saw
3.
it.
It's one of the new ones off the album, yeah. I was mixing an extended mix of it. Just having a mess around.
Everyone does it.
Yeah, it's good fun. And I got my own studio, so it's this kind of specialist thing. We normally farm them out to these very specialised people, and they wreck them and send them back. Myself, so I've been working on.
But it's a very good record. It's a really good record.
Do you like it?
Okay, yeah.
Right. Yeah, good, really good. I like it. You know, I have a lot of trouble sort of saying I think it's great. You know, but just because I hear myself say that. I wish I was just a fan or a hunter and I could see me wildly and modestly. I do like it. There's some good stuff on there, I think. Like I said the other day, you know, I can't be objective yet. But I'm going to take me a couple of months. I can listen to McCartney one. I can just listen to that. Yeah, I like that. To the objectivity. No, it's true that.
I'm sure. I mean, I haven't read my book. I mean, I have, but I can't read.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, that's why. Let me see the guy down. You know, there it is your presentation. You hope you meant to get every bit of it right.
So, I mean, how do you react to criticism, in fact, too? I mean, do you take
I don't really know. Now I'm being very flash and very nonchalant and saying I don't care. But I haven't seen too many reviews. And when I see bad reviews, it'll hurt me. But I am giving myself a bit easier time in life these days. I've gone through so much criticism, and not just from critics, from people like it, that like a fool, I can actually just stood there and just said, yeah, well, you must be right, I've done this, that wasn't too nice. I'm beginning to see it a bit differently now. I'm beginning to see a lot of what they say is their problem, not mine, a lot of the time. And in John's thing, you know, when you obviously know, he was going through a lot of pain when he said a lot of that stuff. And he felt that we were being kind of vindictive against him and Yoko. In actual fact, I just answered a question on an American TV thing. I think we were quite good, looking back on it, and knowing people in life. Many people would have just down tools with a situation like that. You just said, look man, she's not sitting on our amps while we're making a film. I mean, that wouldn't be unheard of. I mean, Sean Penn. Do you know what I mean? You know, that most people would just say, we're not having this person here. Don't care how much you love her. But we were actually quite supportive. Not supportive enough. You know, it would have been nice to be really supportive because then we could look back and say, weren't we really terrific? But looking back on it, I think we were okay. We were never really that mean to you. I think a lot of the time,
Turn 2, please cut. Watch out, I have a big problem with my car.
I hate to be vile, but Jesus. You ain't gonna hold your line? I'm gonna dump you. If I have the chance, and I did. watching it.
Covering on the
'Cause it's so bad.
someone cut me, so then I had no place to go. Je vis.
Ça va être plus facile, dis-moi là en français.
Ouais, c'est ça. Écoute, il y a quelqu'un qui m'a coupé dans les roses, là. Je savais plus où aller, fait que j'ai bien vu que je t'ai coupé la ligne, là. Désolé.
Il n'y a aucun problème, amuse-toi bien.
Bon, we gotta get up there. Je comprends pas pourquoi ils se tapent dans les premiers tours, on n'a pas de traction, ça prend 3-4 tours, après ça,
They're gonna repair it? What? I don't want to go back out there.
They don't want it.
Oh my god.
Just give room, boys. Go. Sweet Caroline. Bum, bum, bum.
Connected.
Let's go, the Québécois.
Time to do your job. Green, green, green.
It's horrible. Horrible. Ah. I really don't want to go back out there. God damn it.
Move it, move it.
Jesus Christ.
Outside. Clear. Outside. Outside is clear. Car outside. Still there. Hold your line. Still there. Clear up top. Car outside. Clear outside. Car outside. Clear high.
I go outside. Thank you.
Ah.
Caution, yellow flag. They want you in single file. Closed, pit road is closed. Catch start 20, car.
Jesus, David, you almost died, brother.
Whoa, Incredible.
Alright, time for pit stops. Woot, woot to the woot, woot.
Catch 20, car. The pit road's open.
Disconnected.
John suspected meanness where it wasn't really there.
Oh, he's presumably very paranoid.
I think so. I mean, he warned me off Yoko once. You know, look, this was my chick, you know, just because he knew my reputation. I mean, we knew each other rather well. And I felt, well, I just kind of said, yeah, no problem with it. But, I mean, I sort of did feel he ought to have known I wouldn't.
I mean,
You know, he was going through, I'm just a jealous guy, he was a paranoid guy. And he was into drugs, heavy.
Yeah, which makes you
He was
paranoid.
into heroin.
Yes, I was going to first on that.
16, car.
See, which I hadn't realised till just now. It's all in my brain. I was just figuring, oh, there's John, my buddy. He's turning on me because he perceives that I'm McCartney bandwagon. He once said to me, oh, they're all on the McCartney bandwagon. He was in it. And to me, I was just releasing a record. Okay, so you can call it McCartney bandwagon, but it's no harm. It's no more than anybody else does when they put out a record. You know. And yet things like that were hurting him. And looking back on it now, I just think it's a bit sad, really.
Because I saw that thing in the Observer last week.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that starts to show some of the pain he was going through. I think. Okay, I mean, you know, hell. Anyway, look, he was a great guy, great sense of humour. I mean, if he did it, I'd do it all again. I'd go through it all again and have him slag me off all again. You know, just because it was so great. Those are all the down moments. But there was much more pleasure than has really come out. Every article now, I'm always saying, I'm sorry, really, I'm quite happy. I mean, I had a wonderful time with one of the world's most talented people. That's like a plus. I say, we had all these crazinesses. But for instance, if someone took one of your wedding photos, if you're married, someone took your wedding photo and put a funeral home, you tend to feel a little bit sorry for the guy. You think, wait a minute, you know. I mean, I'll tell you what, if I'd ever done that to this thing, he would have just hit the roof. But I kind of just sat through it all and was mild-mannered Clark Kent.
You know, this was hurting you, presumably, though. But I mean, when did you actually get perspective?
I still haven't. It's still inside me. I was just talking to someone the other day. I said, John was lucky he got all his hurt out, got all his pain out, he got all his feelings out. I'm not really that kind of person. I'm a different sort of personality inside me that sort of is still trying to work it out. And that's why, you know, it's kind of good to see that wedding funeral bit, because I started to think, wait, this is someone who's going over the top. This isn't just your average jive. This is like paranoid. This is paranoia manifesting itself. And so my feeling is just like it sort of was at the time, which is like, you know, he's my buddy. I don't really want to do anything to hurt him, or his memory or anything. I don't want to hurt Yoko. But at the same time, it doesn't mean I understand what went down. But I don't. It doesn't necessarily. I mean, I went at Yoko request, I went to New York recently. I went to New York. She said she wanted to see me. I said I was going through New York and stuff. So I stopped off and rang her. She said she couldn't see me that day. I was in New York, I was like 400 yards away from her. And I said, well, I mean, I'll pop over any time today, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whenever you can squeeze me in. She said, it's going to be very difficult. I said, well, okay, I understand. What is the reason, by the way? She said, I was up all night with Sean. I said, well, I understand that. I got 4 kids. I understand that. It's terrible. But you're bound to have a minute today sometime. I said, I'm leaving soon. Not really out of that. And she asked me to come. Flown in specially.
Oh, wait, you've gone there specially?
Yeah,
See her?
yeah, to see her. So I kind of a little bit humiliated. I said, okay, 9:30 tomorrow morning. Let's make an appointment. She rang me about 9 o'clock. Could you make it tomorrow morning?
I
don't know. I really don't know. I honestly don't know. So that's the kind of thing, you know, what I'm saying is like, it wasn't all my fault. I'm beginning to let myself off a lot of it.
Do you have a lot of guilt?
Yeah. Well, when some of the world's greatest entertainer calls you angry bird complicated, you get feelings of something. And I always felt guilty. Always felt guilty. But looking back on it, I keep thinking, okay, let's try and analyze it. Now, John was hurt. What was he hurt by? What was the single biggest thing that we could find in all our research that hurt John? The biggest thing I could find is that I told the world the Beatles were finished. I know he said, you know, it was like for publicity for my album. But I mean, that's hurtful. 4 months after the group, 4 months after the group's broken up, and we've waited for 4 months to see if we get back together again. I then announced, I'll tell you what was unfortunate, the method of announcing it, which again was the story behind that, which was that I said to the guy at the office, happened to be Peter Brown, book fame.
Hello, Bob.
I said, I've got an album coming out, can't we? I don't really want to see too much best. We're doing some question and answer things. But I answered them all. We had them printed up and put in the press copies of the album. But I think the perception of that when it arrived on the journalist's desk was, oh, this is McCartney really from it now, and I kind of shudder. Oh, bloody hell. I can see it quite clearly. At the time, it was me trying to answer some questions that were being asked. And I decided to not fudge that question. And I say, looking back on it, I don't think, I mean, if that's the most hurtful thing I did, I haven't really heard much else beyond that. We didn't accept Yoko totally, but like I say, how many groups do you know these days? I mean, it's a joke. It's like Spinal Tap. I mean, it's the Spinal Tap joke.
Actually, there's something I always thought, you know, I always have this assumption when I go to interview groups, so you interview everyone. You think everyone knows what's going on. And you talk, you talk to individual members, and you find no one knows what's going on. They don't communicate at all, you know. And then you start seeing it on stage, you know, like you suddenly see how separate they are on stage.
Daltrey and Townsend,
you know, or the Clash was the same, you know.
Daltrey and Townsend on Live Aid. Pete started copying Roger's movements because he knows exactly what Roger's going to do. And so in the end, Roger started doing Pete's movements. They missed each other up, so it's terrible actually. But anyway, generally speaking, you know, what I'm saying is, I love John. I was his best mate for a long time. Then the group started to break up. It was very sad. I got the kind of rap as being the guy who wrote the group up. Well, that's not actually true.
But you had to actually do it anyway to get out of that.
No, it wasn't actually true. Yeah, legally I had to.
But he'd already said it was
broken actually months before, yeah. And so I got into this legal thing. And you know, looking back on it, I say I got a lot of guilt of that. But you tell me what you would have done if
I'm on the back
the entire earnings that you'd earned, and I mean something like the Beatles, entire earnings is a big figure. This is everything we'd ever done through all the American tours, all the record success, everything we'd ever done up to somewhere around about Hey Jude. And that was about to disappear. was about to go into someone's pocket. And the guy I'm talking about is Klein, and he had $5 million the first year he managed the Beatles. So I smelled a rat. I thought, well, $5 million in 1 year, how long is it going to take him to get rid of it all? So I started to resist, and I was given a lot of pressure. They said, oh, you're always stalling. This is when they came to sign Klein's contract. You probably heard of it.
But they thought it was part of you being involved in Linda as well, didn't they? You wanted to get the Eastons involved. Yeah.
They said, who are we going to get? We looked at Lord Beeching. We looked at all these people. John interviewed Lord Beeching because he'd done the railways so great. I mean, you're kidding. But we wanted who we called Mr. X. We knew we needed someone after Brian. And so we had a meeting in Iceland and said, we really need Mr. X. And if we can get someone really great, it'd be fabulous. So then the Beeching thing came along, and then I just met my in-laws, the Eastman, and I was pretty impressed. And he's a pretty impressive guy. And it would have been great. But obviously everyone worried that because it was my father-in-law, I'd be the one who'd look after him. I think there must obviously be some element of that. So that worried him. And quite naturally they just said, no, we can't have him. So in the end it turned out to be Klein. And I said to people, well, I want out of this. And they said, you can't. I said, I want to sue this guy, Klein. And they said, you can't. He's not a party to any of the agreements. So it became clear I had to sue the Beatles. So obviously I became the baddie. I put on a black hat. But afterwards, you see, the thing is, it's like when you get in a sensation in a newspaper and the retraction is always a week later on the back sports page, the bottom of the sports page. The truth of that whole thing is that yes, I did take the Beatles to the High Court, which is like a highly traumatic period, having to front that one out. You know, imagine, seriously, having to front that one out. The world's like crazy, just insane, so insecure. Half the reason I grew the beard, although the other reason was split.
I know people actually, when they put hair on their face, often to hide.
It's often a cover-up, yeah. And I had this big beard, so I couldn't. I managed to save that, and the judge said something about the prattle of a second-class salesman, talking about Klein. And they put in evidence this big, expecting us not to look at it, because their side, I don't think, looked at what they put in. But because my whole life was on the line at that point. I felt this was the fire, this was the furnace, you know. Finally it arrived. And we used to get shakes in our voices. Neil asked me, well, you talk to Neil about some of the meat things. We got the Nixon shakes. It was something we'd never ever had before. Remember Neil quite clearly trying to, the aforementioned parties, as if that's going to help anyway. Peace on earth, boys.
Get ready, going green.
But, yeah. So we went through a lot of all those problems, but the nice thing was, as I say, afterwards, the little retraction on the sports page was that each one of them in turn, just very, very quietly, very briefly said, oh, thanks for that. Save all the money. That was about all I ever heard about it. And then to this day, no one's ever gone into debt.
No, that's never actually said, but you had a character that you were right, but the other you were wrong.
So that's what I mean, you know. Well, it was actually said, but again, see, John turned it round. They like this thing with reservists, so they were always right, weren't you? There was always this thing. So it was really, it's crazy for me, because I come from Liverpool, and I thought the idea was to try and get it right, you know. And it was quite surprising to find that if we did get it right, people could then turn that one around and say, well, you're always right, aren't you, Smarmy? Or whatever, you know. You got, and I'm like intelligent enough to be able to see that angle, and then if they by moving the goalposts, it's that one, you know. Oh, okay, fair enough. I mean, it occurred quite a few times, you know, because I'm pretty, they kind of, you know, ruthless, ambitious, all that stuff. Not chauffeurs, but I'm pretty forceful. If we've got to make a record, I'll actually sit down and write songs.
See, I was actually,
which can be interpreted as being overpowering and forceful.
I was told, I mean, that in fact, and I've heard this over 70 that you were kind of be more interested if you opened around to keep them out of so early.
Yeah, so I remember doing Let It Be. We sat in Apple, around the table, and I come up with this idea, you know, we should be anyone like that. It didn't happen to be me, but let it be. I said, you could be well, John, why? What for? I can't explain it, but he said, oh, I get it. You want a job? Yeah, that's it. And it was like, oh, you want a job? And it was like, it seemed strange to me that they didn't, but they seemed quite happy just sort of sitting out in St. George's Hill, you know, just languishing. I always wanted to make the group great and even greater. And when we made Let It Be, and it was a bit crummy, I insisted that we made Abbey Road. Because I knew what we were capable of, and I didn't think we pulled it off in that Let It Be. And then with the Phil special remix, we kind of walked away from that LP. We didn't really want to know. In fact, the best version of it was before anyone got hold of it. The Glyn Johns early mixes were great, but they were very bare, very sparkling album. It's great. Now it'd be one of the hippest albums going into it, probably on bootlegs. But before it got its overdubs, before it had all its raw edges of it, that was like one of the best Beatle albums, because it was a bit kind of avant-garde, because it was just purely as we recorded it down there in Apple or on the roof. It was that. There was a good sound on it from Glyn Johns, just a couple of mics on the drums.
Keep going. No.
I loved it. But, no, but it's what's it on those things often. Yeah. So I became known as being overpowered. So it was Abbey Road we were doing, and Maxwell Silverhammer. I got some grief on that. It took 3 days to do that. Now you know how long Trevor Horn takes to do a mix for Frankie. You know, so that's the strange thing. I feel vindicated as time goes on. I'm beginning to understand what I was doing, and that it was half of it was as innocent as I thought it was. I didn't think we got Maxwell Silverhammer right, so I kept pushing to get it right. And they said, "Man, you spent 2 days on this song already," which, you know, now 2 days it takes to switch on the Fairlight. It does, man. I had a group the other day spent 2 days trying to find the on switch. That's serious, you know. But that's what we're into these days, you know. So let's say, you know, on one of the sessions, it was around about Maxwell Silverhammer time. This did used to, I'm sure it did piss people off, and much as I tried to not piss people off, obviously if you are, I don't know, driving force, overbearing, whatever you want to call it, if you are on the ball, perfectionist, whatever, it can annoy some people. Because some people can just say, oh, come on, man, hang out, can we just have let's go and have a drink, you know, let's go have a smoke or something, let's just like, which, you know, I did plenty of anyway. I mean, it wasn't as if I was just a relentless crazy. I mean, I did plenty of the other. It just seemed to me when we had a session booked, it was a cool idea to turn up. You know, but that wasn't always the case. Like Sergeant Pepper, George turned up for his number and a couple of other sessions, but not very much else.
Because George was supposed to have resented you for always getting on his back.
He did resent it. But you see, for instance, 2 examples. One, on Abbey Road, I was beginning to get too producery for George Martin's the actual producer, and I was beginning to sort of be too definite. You know, George and Ringo turned around and said, oh, look, piss off. We're fed up. Just back off. We're fine, we're grown-ups, and we can do it without you fine. So I kind of go, one of those people like me who don't realise when they're being overbearing. It can be very, it becomes a great surprise to actually be told you are overbearing, you know. So I completely clammed up and sort of backed off and sort of went, right, okay, back off. They're right. I'm a turd. Sit here. Hey guys. So a day or so went by, 2 days, the session started to flag a bit. Ringo eventually turned and said, come on, produce. Come on. And so it was like, you either had to have me doing what I did, which is basically or I was going to back off and become paranoid myself, which is what happened. There's a lot of Wings was to do with that I'd been told I was so sort of overbearing, that for instance, if the guitarists in Wings wanted to play a solo a certain way, I wouldn't dare tell them not, that it wasn't going to be. And the other example that really pissed George off, but I do think it was right, we were making Hey Jude, I know you know, but I've still got something. Anyway, was we were making Hey Jude, and to me, it had to have a sparse opening. It should have this intimate opening. It was going to build, a kitchen sink, and eventually get to Nirvana. Or near Nirvana. Anyway, so I start up, hey Jude, and George went, don't make it back, take a sad song, I'll make it better, and George was answering every line to the whole song, and I just said, no, I really don't want that, it's my song. We always had the rule was whoever sung it was, got to say how to do an. So of course, that pissed him off. And I'm sure I pissed Ringo off when he couldn't quite get the drums to USSR, and I sort of sat in. I'm actually still very aware of that. It's a very weird thing to know you can do a thing that someone else is having trouble with. Because, one, you make it very simple, you're just going down and doing it and just bluffing right through it and taking the hell, at least I'm helping. But obviously the paranoia comes in is, but I'm going to show him up. And I was very sensitive to that. I was thinking, should I say? It always came to, you should have said something. So, it's very hard to balance that. So in the end, like I said, sometimes I was over there, sometimes they liked it. Good work out.
Do you have much to do with them now?
I'm just starting to get back to it. It's all business troubles. It's all business.
Seems to be. I mean,
that's what spoils the whole thing for us. If we don't talk about Apple, we get on like a house on fire. The minute anyone mentions Apple, something comes up and they'll sort of say, well, you wouldn't show us your records to your accounts. The man is now at this moment in my office. Oh, like hell he is. And we have major misunderstandings over things like that. But I do bend over backwards to try not easy. Raise the Boston. But so I've just started to see them again, and I had a great day the other day with George. We came down to visit, and we really had, for the first time in billions
How was there
of
no
years,
caution?
we had a nice time. Because George was my original mate.
Well, more than
I knew George before. Well, he lived near me, so he lived in up to Green. And I lived in Harvard Road, like half a mile away. So we were mates, took the same bus to the same school, 500, which was the Express. So we took the same bus, so we often would sit together, and then we got a guitar about the same time. And we went through the chord books, the same bird reading, guitar technique, chord books, and we learned D and A together, and E. And we were quite big buddies then. So that was something I've missed really for all these years, we got all professional people. You lose that, obviously. And he just came down with the devil with it. And we didn't pick it. Somebody said, so I told somebody else this, that I'd seen it. They said, did you play together? I said, nope, didn't touch an instrument, didn't do anything. I was just back as mates, like on the bus. He's very into trees and plants and horticulture, as I am now. So we talked about planting trees. What's that plant? That's nice. I was really great. To actually relate as two people and try and get all that crap out of the window. Fully to one side. It's such a weight.
But that seems to be part of the process. He seems to be emerging more anyway.
Yeah, he's coming to now. We're all kind of coming to. We all brushed off this whole Beatle episode. Obviously, it's a big deal. It was a huge deal. If there ever was a big deal, that was it. So I don't think half of us know what happened to a tree. I mean, I can never tell you what year a thing was. Literally, they all just go into hate. So I know what we do. I keep seeing pictures of myself like this, seeing shaking hands with Mitzi Gaynor. I didn't know I met her. I mean, it's that vague. And yet, I look as straight as a die, isn't it? I'm not.
I mean, is that because you were on speed or dope?
I don't think so. I think it was just
momentum.
life was speeding. You would just meet Mitzi again for 5 minutes, and then you go and meet Jerry Lewis's kids. It's kind of very difficult after a while just to know if you met 50 of them. In LA, you It was probably just one of the star celebrity batches. But I keep seeing these photos of me with people that I didn't even know I'd met. I met you, and they're very famous, and anyone else in the world would remember them. It seems like I'm being big time. You think I'm being arrogant? Exactly. It's Flaco. I mean, it is. Bowie's got that problem, because he did do it. He was probably a bit more Flaco. But he's got huge periods of his life he just does not know that. Want to see him? You'll laugh though, I'll tell you that. Yeah, it's some good times. But, no, you know, that can be good.
Clear outside if you want to.
When you're aware of this, or you just like living real life and you hear something you want so much.
Yeah, we used to ask them, am I a millionaire yet? I used to say cryptic things like, on paper you are. It isn't in the green things yet. Well, not actually in a bank, but and you know, I just think you are. It's actually very difficult. The accountants never made me feel successful. I remember we had the top 5 in America, and I decided I wanted to buy a country house. And I wasn't asking for the work. Those days it would cost whack. And I went to the accountant and got a mortgage.
Road is closed. Lender, a
I'll be doing well yet. Got the top 5 on. There's got to be some money coming.
11.
They always try to keep you down. So you didn't actually get much of a feeling of being very rich. And I mean, the first time I actually saw checks was when I left Apple. And it wasn't me that saw them, it was Linda. Because we'd co-written a few of our early things. I lived and let die, she helped me with some words on. So I put her down as co-writer, which the writers didn't like.
Yeah, so
which is 80% didn't like. In fact, they sued me. They were charming, I thought. It was all the settings. Lee Eastman stepped in and settled. Very good for Lee. This is top man. But no, the first checks were Linda's. I actually saw royalty checks coming to Linda. Oh wow, I bet I got a few of them somewhere. But mine never came to me. Always went to a party aforementioned, and they always just went down a big well. We never saw any. So didn't have much of a feeling of being that well off, although we spent it with great glee.
Miles,
Which Miles? International Tire.
Yeah. He used to take Tire and like go around to the Asher's place. I think you were away onto a Peter Asher showed, and he sort of looked at it. He sort of said, look, and they opened a cupboard and like.
Yeah, I've heard that story. In fact, I read it. You know, well, I'll tell you. I mean, you know, maybe that's true. I don't remember that, and things do get exaggerated. Maybe I've unexaggerated my memory of it. I never remember actually having a wad of money like that. I certainly.
Because I always heard that like when Brian did the deals.
It was nice of him.
It was the 60s.
Maybe that's why I never saw him. He probably had it away. No, I mean I don't really remember that. In fact, I did. That was another thing I must because I saw the word Miles.
I would say.
I didn't know Miles very well. He was a good mate. Yeah, I haven't seen him for a long time. But he was like my mate. Has he done a Ginsburg? Great, yeah. That'd be all right because he's a good guy. Miles. Barry it is because he was being very cryptic. That's cool. What's your name? Miles. Miles what? We had many a wondrous stoned evening in his place with listening to all sorts. See, that was another of the interesting things. See, I think I've got like a certain personality. To me, if I give charity, I don't like to shout about it. So some people think I'm a good charity. If I know I get into avant-garde stuff, I don't particularly shout, hey, you know what I'm into now, avant-garde stuff. I just kind of do it and get on with it. So way before John met Yoko and got avant-garde, I was like the avant-garde London bachelor with Miles, my pad in St. John's Wood. I was making like 8mm movies, showing them to Antonioni. That was pretty far out stuff, you know. And putting, I had all sorts of theories, you know, of music synchronization, where we put on a Ravi Shankar record to our home movies and it'd synchronize. I just did it with my kids the other day, actually, with our home movies. It does, it fits. I said, yeah, I was doing this to the Simpsons. But, you know, I had a lot.
Okay,
kind
go.
of looking slightly, this is great, you should do more. This sort of attitude of, well, you know, I am sort of what I am, this is me, just learning. Piles over turning on to a lot of that international time, meaning review or something, everything, ever far out.
You tell me about your paper.
I used to do a lot of that, but I mean, it never really came out about it. When John went out on guard, you knew about it.
Was that because he was self-publicist or was it just that?
No, he's just enthusiastic for whatever he was doing. John was very upfront.
Yeah, I was
I'm not
waiting
as
for
upfront.
him there,
I'm just a different
never
personality.
came.
You know, it just doesn't occur to me to
Yeah, it was
tell people
quite
everything
close.
I'm doing. But, you know, I was into quite sort of heavy avant-garde
Suddenly there
tracks,
was
sit in
like
boroughs,
3-4 cars in the
in
middle of the
basement.
track.
And there were a couple of gay guys
was
with
so
boroughs
easy,
that
mate.
knew women.
One left to
Who was
green.
like friends of mine. I jumped in the bar and faced the crowd. And it was a scene around London, you know. It didn't matter, gay, schmay, who cared, you know.
Catch up, 19 car.
And we used to sit down in Montague Square, where John eventually got a flat. That was
Yeah, we got
a
busted.
connection, where he got busted. That was where we used to go. And I remember sitting around with Burroughs, you know, to do little tapes, and
Catch up,
backward
19
guitar,
car.
and cello, and crazy stuff. But it didn't occur to me, the next enemy interview I did, to say, hey, have you heard William Burroughs, man? He's in town, and he's writing the greatest album. Maybe it would have been good for me to do that, I don't know.
Catch up, 19
I just
car. About to go green.
occurs to
Stay
me, you know, and
focused.
sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong. But I say, you know, Yoko turned up to see me
Car
first
is off.
in London. She met me before she met me.
Green, green, green.
So this is what I mean, you know, and you won't hear it off them either, because they're Scotland's elder. Now they want the story just how they put it out. She turned up for a charity thing. Something to do, she wanted manuscripts. Something to do with avant-garde Cage.
Clear inside.
Cage in New York. It was some benefit.
Caution, yellow
And she was
flag.
looking for
Line up,
manuscripts.
single file.
Any spare lyric sheets you had around, and I was pretending to be on the backs of envelopes. Quite funky little things. And to tell you the truth, I didn't want to give her any. Big deal. So, I'm allowed, I don't have to do it. It just, I didn't want to. I kept these manuscripts, they're very precious to me, and the cause didn't seem so great, I forget what it was. So I said, but my mate might be interested. John, you know, and I gave her John's address, and I think that was first how they hooked up. And then she had her exhibition and stuff, and then their side of the story starts to happen then. Also, I kind of, so, you know, I feel like I'm kind of justifying living, you know, which is a bit of a piss-off, because I don't really want to have to sit around and justify myself a bit.
Catch up, 7
But there are lots of things that haven't come out. I mean, for instance, when they bust up their marriage, she came through London. He was in LA doing Pussycats with Nielsen, having a generally quite crazy time of it all. And he was the guy, you know, the famous story, don't you know who I am? He says to the waitress, she says, yeah, the jerk with the Kotex on his head. And he was doing that, fighting photographers and haranguing the Smothers Brothers. And generally being really loved Yoko, and they had a very, very deep, strong relationship. But they were into all sorts of crazy stuff, and I don't know the half of that. A lot of people don't know the half of that. There's hints that it keep coming out in books, but you never know whether you can believe those.
You mean occultism or
All sorts. Well, I certainly did get a postcard. We all got postcards from Yoko saying, go around the world in a southeasterly direction, it would be good for you. You're allowed to stop at 4 places. George Martin got one of those, and he says, it would be all right if I go to Montserrat? I said, no. Actually, John did the voyage. John went on the southeasterly direction.
Eso como las cosas se
Well, we all kind of
llaman.
Sure, we'll go around the southeast. Well, I mean, I sat with John Yoko. Well, I was going to tell you about the marriage thing. I remember. So many memories.
Yo creo que tiene el micrófono
And it's like a
en
psycho
una habitación
session.
diferente.
I get on this stuff. I'm on a couch, and I'm just trying to purge it all, you know. I sat at dinner
Ah,
with
toma
him
por culo,
once.
¿sí?
Later in the
Esto es en otra habitación.
week, came over and we sat at dinner. And John said, you fancy getting a
La
treatment?
calidad en sí del
thing?"
micrófono no parece ser mala,
I
pero
said, well, what is it?
escuchar,
He said,
ya
well,
te
you
digo,
can
o
have a
sea,
whole board in
está
the
hablando
skull,
desde la
and,
cocina.
you know, it relieves the pressure on the mouth. I said, well, look, We're sitting at dinner, and this is seriously being offered as a serious. It wasn't a joke.
It's in the 60s, by the way.
Yeah.
Oye, que a lo mejor está el chaval haciéndose la cena mientras corre.
Now
¿sabes?
this
Tampoco
wasn't a
le-
joke. This was like, let's go next week. We know a guy who can do it, and you know, maybe we all go together. Yeah. And I said, well, look, you go and have it done. And if it works great, tell us all about it. We'll all have it. But you know, I'm afraid I've always been a little bit cynical about stuff like that.
Okay,
Well,
punch it.
I think. Because I think, you know, there's so much crap you
They
can
want
go
you
and
in
go
single
through.
file.
But John was more open to things
You
like that.
exited
I think
the
he
closed
always,
pit.
I mean, his
Go
quote
back to
about
the
tire
tail of
kind
the
of sums
longest
it up. Anyone who's been
line.
so
Fall back.
bad-mouthed,
Catch
it can't be
up,
that bad.
11,
There was this kind of crazy reverse logic that anyone who's that bad must be good. And it's very difficult when you start going crazy against it. Okay. Hitler presumably must have had some good points. You know, but this is what I mean. It's very difficult to cope with that kind of thinking. Because you're having to, I mean, it's bad enough just trying to be logical. But trying to be reverse logical is like very difficult. I remember getting letters from priests. There's a priest in a monastery used to send letters where he turned all the words backwards. And that was a hard habit to get out of.
17.
I don't know if you've ever gone through that. Where God becomes dog, live becomes evil, and all that stuff. And he was doing this trick. And you start looking at every word then. Memo is memo. Yeah, it's like numerology. You can't look at numbers without doing the calculation. And I had to train myself to stop, man. I don't want to know about this. You know, I'm sure anyone who's interested, great, good luck to you. I wouldn't put you down. You know, I'm sure there's a lot in it. But I'm crazy enough anyway.
Because were you? I mean, you know, you were smoking a lot of dope as well. Were you getting paranoid as well? I mean, it does make
Yeah.
you know, it doesn't help.
No, it doesn't. No. Yeah, it's getting quite paranoid.
Catch up, 17.
I was telling you about the marriage thing. When they broke up, Yoko came through London and visited us, which was very nice. And Linda and I
About to go green, stay focused.
a bit before. We're living in this big sort of old house in St. John's Wood. And Yoko came by and we started talking. Obviously the important subject for us is what's happened. You've broken up then, you know, you're here, he's there.
Green, green, green.
And she was very nice and confided and stuff. Yeah. But she was being very strong about it. She was very feminist, being a strong woman rather than just committed to it. And she said, no, he's got to work his way back. If he's to get back with me, I can't just go. She couldn't, which is good. You know, I had to just kind of prostrate herself on his feet, kind of. But she said, no, you can have to work it. And I said, well, look, I mean, if I see it, what, are you still in love? Are you still sort of loving someone? I said, well, would you think it was an intrusion if I kind of said to her, look, she loved you, and there's a way to get back. And you can, it sounds like Beatles songs, it sounds like this, and I send all my love from you. And I said this to Yoko, I said, would that be okay? Would you hate that? I said, you know, you might see him around, so I'd like to be a mediator in this, because I think the two of you obviously have got something pretty strong there.
Outside clear.
So that was good. We went out to Lisbon and did Pussycats. And
Oh my God.
But then I just said to John, he was in the house with Nielsen, just two of the guys, and they were all, it's a pretty crazed house there. You hear some of the stories come out of that house. Pretty wild days. And I said to him, hey, come on, come in. Come in back to your home, so it's like, to the home, this girl, she was a Jew like that, from the divorce girl, you know, divorce back she does still work with her ass off. You know, to get back to New York, you have to take a separate flat, you have to send the roses every fucking day, you have to work at it like a bitch, and you just might get her back. Which is sort of what he did. But you'll never hear that stuff. You won't hear that off now because I'm too in the story now. They don't want to hear the story. Prefer to think John, and if you hear it from John's point of view, it'll just be that he spoke to you on the phone and she said he'll come back.
But I always sort of found it interesting the fact that he, I mean, it seemed too much like poetry.
Go out.
But married.
Yeah, we I think it was we spurred each other into marriage. I mean, you know, they were very strong together, which left me out of the picture. So I got together with them, and I used to listen to a lot of what they said. I remember him saying to me, "You've got to work at marriage," which is something I still remember.
I can see the key.
And then yeah, I think again, you know, there were probably the keys that we got married first. Probably a little way. And then
But I wondered if it was after, you know, like you had two blokes quite good mates.
yeah.
And then, one of them finally grew on the other, the league they won. It's like a lot of kind of, the friendship often breaks up, there's quite a lot of bitterness happening.
Wedding bells.
It seems like that.
Wedding bells is what it was. The song was Wedding Bells Breaking Up That Old Gang of Mine. And we used to know that song, so we listened to it. We used to sing it. Another gang of mine. And we used to know that song. So the association we had when we were young was Army. It was sort of Army song. Army buddies and wedding bells. For us, the Army became the beat. And we always kind of knew that one day wedding bells would come true. So, and that was when it did.
Blinking like a motherfucker.
Well, I mean, the thing is, the trouble is, in trying to set the record straight and trying to do all this, I don't want to blame John or make anyone think. I mean, I did this thing recently in 100 Days, and they pulled out the one line, John could be a moving swine. Well, I still stick to that. But I'd better not say it to the son. Because I'll just get hauled over the coals again. The point was, John was a very human guy, and if you got in a business meeting with him, I mean, I'll tell you exactly why I said that. Is that we had a business meeting, it's a great little meeting, one of the famous ones that we've been having, we're still having. Still haven't done it. 17 years later. We had this meeting. We were in New York, and we all flew in. Especially George came off his tour. Just asked his tour again. Ringo flew in. I flew in. We were all in New York Plaza. For the big final settlement thing. And John was at Dakota, and as you know, New York geography, that's like half a mile away. And John sent a balloon over. Listen to this balloon. You've got to be pretty cool to go and handle that stuff, Oh yeah, George run them up. You fucking maniac, take the fucking dark glasses off and come and look at us, man. Gave my whole load of shit. But later, around at the same time, another meeting, similar thing, where John, everything was going swinging, we had it all settled. Well, last minute, John asked for an extra £1 million. That's all he wanted. Next £1 million. So of course that meeting blew up, disarray, and that finished that. Later, it got a bit friendly, because occasionally there were little stepping stones of friendship in the kind of acting scene. And one of those times, I said to him, "Isn't that enough? Why did you actually go?" He said, "I just wanted cars. Now that's a maneuver. That's the kind I wouldn't do that. Somebody who's, it's good, absolutely standard business practice. You just wanted cars to play with. You wanted a couple of jacks to offer your own pair of nines. And that's, he was quite open about that. Because if I come out now with sort of die or a tragedy or crazy. It would just be on any particularly. In a way, I'm kind of expected to just sort of say he was the same, he was always the same, I remember him the same, I love him the same. But that would be alright. He was one great guy, and part of his greatness is that he wasn't the same.
White flag.
He was a great guy, and he was pretty sacrilegious and pretty upfront about it. It was a pretty hard thing.
You got an awful lot of shit for that remark, like really well protected. But that seemed to me like, I didn't understand why, that seemed to me like classic understatement, I think, because, saying it's a drag, you're always actually saying,
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But you know, why some politicians are so successful is that they have a little bleeper box in their head before they say things. They run things through their mind and they can see it as a headline.
Good win,
If
Pablo.
it doesn't look good, they edit it.
Sure.
I have that sometimes, but I don't always have that, particularly in moments like that, where all my bleepers go out the window. I mean, we were very surprised to go to work that day. That was